Let's move over to Tennessee. Joe, I was so highly impressed about how Tennessee played. We just got done talking about the Oklahoma offensive line, but Tennessee was the one that came in here with a little bit more injuries than them. You had Lance Hurd that was out.
Yes.
You had your left tackle that got hurt in the middle of the game. You go into a third string left tackle. Did not matter. Joe, they wanted it more. And I gotta say this. I never in a million years, and I'm wrong in this, did I think that Josh Heupel would come into the SEC on both lines of scrimmage and be this physical of a football team. They are as physical as you can get. Now, here's another thing. Joe, they led the way with 35 minutes time of possession. Brilliantly coached game by Josh Heupel in Tennessee. Your thoughts and what you saw from Tennessee yesterday?
I think what makes this team so scary is for what you just said. You're down multiple guys on your offensive line. You're arguably your best offensive lineman, Lance Hurd, who had a really hot start to the season, was unavailable, and then the injury that happened in the middle of the game. To still feel like you won, they did give up some bad pressures, but to still feel like you won on your offensive line, and then more importantly, you're able to bring in so many damn guys on defense in your defensive line and just keep rotating them. That kept getting brought up on the broadcast. They were getting after Jackson Arnold, and they were able to get after Hawkins so easily. Mm-hmm. It felt like without having to send any extra pressure. That defense is nasty. They hit. They come after people. And I think that that's going to help them win football games down the line to maybe finish this year as 11-1 football team when they get into these premier matchups. One thing that I think makes them the most dangerous, though, Blake, is that when you play this style of defense where you do force turnovers, you produce these big sacks, these completely demoralizing ends to drives, they're able to come right back on offense and then connect on a deep pass over the middle.
Like what they did with Brew McCoy.
They did that multiple times, and it's not like they're aggressively trying to take those shots the entirety of the game. It's kind of dig and dunk, chip away, run the football, and then bam, you're out of position one play. We know where to connect, and Nico has such a powerful arm that he can drive the ball way quicker than anybody else in the country to connect on those plays to make them even larger of a splash play. This team's super dangerous. I know that Nico was a little bit sloppy in some parts, but don't let anyone tell you that Nico didn't play great, because he's starting to look better and better on a week-to-week basis.
I will agree with that. I'm just going to say this. He's got to take care of the football, right? Like in the two P4 teams that he's played, he's got 4 total turnovers. That cannot happen.
Yeah.
Because if it does, Joe, then you're going to have some it's going to be chaotic. So, listen, did he play good? Yes. Do I think he's just got, like most first-time starters, does he have areas that he needs to improve on? Also, yes. It's not missed on me that he was the one that gave Josh Heupel the game ball at the end of the game, which I'm going to get to at the end of this. I thought that was really cool. Joe, you brought up a key point here. When we were in the offseason, when we did our deep dive on Tennessee, both of our takes were that everybody, it seems like in the country, constantly wants to talk about how good Josh Heupel and this team can be offensively, but they don't look at them defensively. Their defensive line generated 11 tackles for loss and 3 sacks. And I look at them and say, man, it's not just the front 4 that they have. It's really the rotation of 7 that they have that I thought played very well. Now, Joe, I'm really waiting to see when they play a better offensive line. Look, NC State and Oklahoma have 2 very bad offensive lines. Let's see how they continue throughout the season. But, man, anytime you go into a game and get 11 tackles for loss on a P4 opponent is absolutely stellar. And what we just talked about just a moment ago, look, man, the simple nature that they're lining up and running the football and punching people in the mouth is quite the opposite of what most teams thought that they would be, or people thought that they would be. To your point, Brew McCoy, I mean, we talked about all these other receivers. Brew McCoy, 4 catches, 92 yards. I mean, they're doing so many good things offensively that they can – Joe, when they finally are able to open it all the way up, they're going to be more dangerous than people are giving them credit for. I just think when they get a little bit more healthy along their offensive line, when their defensive line is carrying them right now, Joe, their stock is up. It is rising, and they're going to be a contender. Last thing that I would say here on Tennessee, and then kick it back over to you. Did you see Josh Heupel's post-game speech to his team?
I saw part of it. I didn't catch the whole thing, but I saw that he was very emotional after the win.
He said, and I quote, "Coming back to Norman was never about me." And he had a 10-second pause. And he said, "But I appreciate that you went out there and were better for me." And Joe, I will tell you, we talk about X's and O's. We talk about players so much. We don't talk about emotional, motivating wins enough like this one. Joe, this can propel a team like this. A younger team that has a lot of experience in key positions. Man, Tennessee's it feels like they're a really good, they have the potential to be a very, very good football team. And look, man, Heupel's stock is up too. I'm glad, seeing how emotional he was. It made me feel like, hey, man, I'm glad that this guy was able to go out there and get that win.
Well, and we remember 2 years ago when they were trending upward and they were improving, and Hendon Hooker was the quarterback before his injury. You really could feel tangibly watching them that they were all bought in, that they were all like really just
no doubt
there presently together. And that's a very good point. It's something that we never talk about in any of these things because we're not in the locker room. We're never going to understand what the camaraderie is for these players. But you can really tell. And I think that a win like this, getting your first SEC matchup of the season, traveling to Norman, and we were talking about how it's BS that Oklahoma gets to host this game, but inversely, I think it's a great thing for this Tennessee team this year that everybody was so excited to win this on this team for their head coach because of the importance it had for them. That is a galvanizing moment. Galvanizing moments is what creates special teams. When you have early season spots that everybody's bought in and wants to show up to practice excited every single day, and you get better on a week-to-week basis. You can improve throughout the season. I think that this is, if we're pinpointing an early one for a team, this is it. Next week, we're going to talk about Alabama and Georgia after that game. That'll probably be that motivational moment for a team. But it's special, and I think that is going to continue to help Tennessee as the season progresses.
One final thing, I lied there. They got to get a little bit better at protecting the football offensively.
Very true.
Your defense generates multiple turnovers, and then you give the ball right back. That will get you beat. Now, do you chalk it up for, a young quarterback in Nico? I don't know what you want to chalk that up to on some of these turnovers, but, Joe, they got to get better there because if they don't, well, there is going to be a problem. And I just want to point that out. But, again, they only allowed 1.1 yards per rush. Joe, that's insanity. That's elite defensive line play.
This video is sponsored by the online fitness training camp presented by Chris Gates Fitness. When I first started talking about Chris, about partnering with our show, not only was I excited to have a fitness sponsor for our pod, but more importantly, when I found out about how he can help people achieve their goals, I was even more bought in because when the football season starts, it is so tough to stay on top of things and also to be able to enjoy yourself on Saturdays when it's game day. With Chris Gates Fitness's online training camp, you're going to be able to effectively stay focused, consistent, burn fat, build muscle, and do it with a like-minded community of individuals working towards the same thing. On top of this, you're going to be able to get direct coaching from Chris and the ability to ask him questions with an access to a live Q&A where you can get direct personalized support from Chris himself. Don't wait any longer. If you're trying to get in shape during this fall and you want to be able to do it with the right support system, head on over to chrisgatesfitness.com/training camp or click the link in the description. And you need to do it today because you can get the first month. Personal training is expensive, folks. The first month for only $10 when you use that code RuffinoJoe. Don't wait any longer. Head on over there. BetOnline remains your top spot for all of your live betting action and contests. NFL, college football, UFC, NHL are all in full swing. BetOnline is your number one source for wagering news, odds, trends, and predictions with both desktop and mobile access at any time. Head to BetOnline today and use promo code BELIEVE, that's BLEAV, for 50% off your first deposit. That is a 50% welcome bonus. Bet online, where the game starts.